May was a 70-year-old widow with one grown son named Joe. Joe was her only child, and they had a close, loving relationship. May had struggled with childlessness for years before Joe was born, so she cherished him deeply, seeing him as her greatest blessing. Joe, now a successful businessman, admired his mother and spent as much time as possible with her. Their bond was filled with joy and meaningful conversations. Joe often asked his mother to share stories and advice, saying, "Mom, your words will guide me even when you're no longer here." May was always happy to share life lessons, wanting to help Joe stay strong and resilient. She was proud of the man he had become, and Joe, in turn, made sure his mother had everything she needed. One day, May sat Joe down for a serious conversation. With a somber expression, she began, "Joe, there's something important I need to tell you. Please don't think of getting married right now. If you do, it will hurt me deeply." Joe was taken aback. "Mom, what do you mean?" he asked, confused. May's voice trembled as she continued, "The love you have for me will be shared with another woman, and I can't handle that. I'm too old and jealous to accept such a change. Before you were born, I suffered greatly. I went everywhere, trying all sorts of remedies, praying for a miracle child. God finally blessed me with you, and you've been my everything since then." Her eyes glistened with tears as she added, "Please, Joe, don't bring any distractions into our lives now. When the time is right, I'll even help you find a wife. But for now, let's stay the way we are." Joe tried to reason with her gently. "Mom, I understand how you feel, but I'm not getting any younger. I promise no one will ever take your place. You'll always be my number one." But May shook her head firmly. "If you go against me, Joe, I don't know what I'll do," she said, her voice breaking. I might end my life." Horrified, Joe jumped to his feet. "No, Mom, please don't say that. I'll do as you ask. You mean everything to me. I won't do anything to hurt you." Relieved, May smiled faintly and hugged him. "Thank you, my child. You're all I have," she whispered. Despite his promise, Joe felt a heavy weight in his heart. He knew his mother's happiness was his priority, but he couldn't ignore his own longing for a family. One day, unable to suppress his feelings, Joe brought a young lady home to meet his mother. He hoped that May would see her as a kind and loving person and give her blessings for their relationship. But deep down, he wondered if May could truly accept someone else in his life. Joe approached his mother with a calm voice, saying, "Mom, I want you to meet someone special. Please, give her a chance." However, as soon as May saw the young lady, her face clouded with anger and jealousy. Before Joe could even finish his introduction, May exploded. "Have you lost your mind, Joe? How dare you bring another woman into this house? What's wrong with you?" Without waiting for a response, she stormed toward the young woman, shouting insults. "You think you can take my son away from me? You're dreaming." Things escalated quickly as May lashed out physically, grabbing the young woman and hitting her. The startled visitor tried to defend herself, but May dragged her outside, yelling, "If I ever see you near my son again, I'll deal with you in a way you'll never forget." Joe was horrified by his mother's behavior. He shouted, his voice breaking with frustration and disbelief. "Mom, stop this madness. How can you treat someone like that? How can you treat me like this? Am I supposed to stay unmarried forever? Am I supposed to marry you instead? This is unbelievable." May glared at her son, but Joe wasn't done. His voice softened, but the pain was clear. "Mom, you're keeping me a prisoner in my own father's house. I can't live like this. If this is how you're going to act, I'll leave and never come back." Hearing those words, May's anger dissolved into sorrow. She collapsed into tears, crying uncontrollably. Joe's heart ached at the sight of his mother in so much pain. He sat beside her, gently holding her hands. "Mom, I'm sorry," he said softly. "I didn't mean to hurt you. You know I love you with all my heart. Please don't cry." May looked at him through tearful eyes, her voice trembling. "Joe, please don't ever leave me. If you do, I will die. You are all I have." Joe hugged her tightly, whispering, "I will never leave you, Mom. No matter what, I'll always be here for you." But inside, Joe felt torn. How long could he sacrifice his future and happiness to keep his mother content? One day, May's best friend Agnes came to visit. Like May, Agnes was a widow in her 70s, and she listened intently as May poured out her feelings. "Agnes," May confessed, I feel so jealous whenever I see Joe with another woman. It's like I'm losing him. Please help me. What can I do to make him stay close to me forever? Agnes sighed and looked at May with a mix of pity and frustration. My dear friend, she began. You're blind to what's happening. Joe is a grown man. You're not letting him live his life. While other women celebrate their sons' marriages and grandchildren, you're here clinging to Joe as if he's a little boy. That's not fair to him, or to you. May, confused, asked, What should I do, Agnes? How can I make sure Joe stays close to me? Agnes leaned closer, her expression serious yet cryptic. You want to keep Joe close? Then let him have what he desires. May frowned. What do you mean? Agnes whispered something shocking. Her suggestion left May gasping in disbelief. Are you saying only Joe should have me, or all three of them? May stammered, horrified by the implication. Agnes shrugged and urged, Try it. You might be surprised by how things turn out. May sat in silence, grappling with the absurdity of her friend's advice. The conversation lingered in her mind, leaving her more conflicted than ever. May, desperate to keep her son Joe close, decided to follow her friend Agnes's shocking advice. One day, she nervously called Joe into her room and asked him to sit down. Taking a deep breath, she began, Joe, there's something I need to tell you. Joe, sensing her unease, replied, What is it, Mom? May hesitated but then blurted out, Invite 2 of your friends, strong and handsome like you, and all of you can have me. I know this is what you've been wanting to ask, but we're too shy to say. Don't worry, I am your mother. I would never deceive you. Joe froze, his heart racing in disbelief. Tears welled up in his eyes as he stammered, Mom, are you serious? Have you gone mad? May, seeing his tears, smiled softly and said, Stop crying, my son. I know these are tears of joy. Trust me, this will bring us closer. Joe, overwhelmed and horrified, left the room in shock. He immediately called 2 of his closest friends to explain what had happened. Together, they returned to May's room. When May saw them, her earlier confidence crumbled, replaced by fear. No, these men will kill me. Joe, I was only joking, she screamed. But Joe ignored her protests. He and his friends carried May into his car and drove her to a psychiatric hospital. May cried and pleaded during the ride. Joe, I'm not mad. Please believe me. It was Agnes who told me to do this. Forgive me, my son. Joe, however, was firm in his decision. At the hospital, he ensured that May would receive the care she needed, paying the doctors to look after her. Heartbroken, he left her there, feeling it was the only way to save both his mother and himself. In May's absence, Joe found the courage to move forward with his life. He married the love of his life in a grand ceremony that became the talk of the town. When May heard about the wedding from the hospital, she was devastated. Why did I chase my only son away with my own hands? What have I done? She cried daily, overwhelmed by regret and shame. Months later, Joe and his wife decided to visit May at the hospital. As soon as May saw them, she fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. Joe, my son, she begged. Please forgive me. Take me back as your mother. I promise I will never interfere with your life or your marriage again. Just give me one more chance. Joe, moved by her genuine remorse, helped her to her feet. Mom, I forgive you, he said softly. Let's leave the past behind us. From that day forward, Joe brought May back home. They worked to rebuild their relationship, learning to live together with love and mutual respect. May accepted Joe's marriage, and together, Joe, his wife, and May created a peaceful, harmonious life. Moral lessons. 1. Love should never be possessive. True love allows others the freedom to live their lives. 2. Jealousy, if unchecked, can destroy even the strongest relationships. 3. Be cautious about whom you seek advice from. Bad advice can lead to regrettable decisions. 4. Forgiveness has the power to heal wounds and mend broken relationships. Thank you for watching and supporting my channel. Your encouragement means everything to me. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. Stay tuned for more inspiring content, and thank you again for being part of this journey.